Hey, do you know what Wilt said once? He said that they say nobody's perfect, but they also say that practice makes perfect. And Wilt just didn't understand which way they were going, and he wanted them to make up their minds. We are back like a vertebrae. We are the HoopStorians. He's Neek. Oh, it's that way for him. I'm Tony Styles. Let's get into this day in NBA history. This day in NBA history, February 29th, 1964. I just want to let you guys know it's hard to find this day in NBA history on February 29th, but I worked for it, so here we go. 1964, Cincinnati Royals teammates, may know them better now as the Sacramento Kings. Jerry Lucas and Oscar Robertson combined for a rare 40-40 performance. Oscar dropped 40, Jerry Lucas grabbed 40 rebounds. They beat the 76ers 117 to 114. Jerry Lucas was the rookie of the year that year. Oscar had 43. Jerry Lucas had an even 40. Neat. What? How come we don't ever see players grabbing 40 boards anymore? And out of all the players in the league, who do you think would be most likely to grab 40 this season?
First of all, I don't see nobody grabbing 40 rebounds. That's just insane to start with. Um, if I was to see anybody with the potential to, it would have to be a Jokic, a Giannis, a healthy Embiid, Gobert maybe. It had to be one of them bigger guys. I don't see anybody under 6'7" doing it. Maybe not even under 6'8", to be honest.
So there's no way Draymond could do it.
I don't think they letting Dre get 40. I don't think they letting him get 40 boards on him.
What about Sabonis? You think Sabonis could do
Sabonis,
it?
I could see Sabonis doing it. Yeah, I could see Sabonis doing it.
I'll tell you one that's a sneaky rebounder that may be able to do it is Vucevic.
Okay.
So nobody ever considers him. Every year he's putting up 10 to 12 boards. I'll tell you who's rebounding at a hell of a rate is Nurkic. Speaking of which, we're going to rally the valley tonight. But Nurkic, I remember one game he had 18 boards through 22 minutes. Going into the fourth. So if he was playing more minutes and all that, but no, I'm with you. I don't see anybody getting 40. Wait a minute. What about Wimbiana? You ever see him getting 40
Wemby,
going for?
you know what? Wemby, I could, but he would have to gain some more weight. Like he's long enough, you feel me, to do it. He's tall enough to do it, but he's still so thin right now to where people can still kind of box him out a little bit. He can still get elbowed around a little bit, so he have to put on some weight. If Wemby put on Giannis type of muscle, maybe.
So Josh Hart just played 47 minutes, had 18 boards. However, he is what 6'5" and a guard and on the perimeter. So I mean, you are going to need to stay somebody that is around the rim. What I like Wimbiana is obviously you're going to want to put him around the rim for the defense, the shot blocking, the length, the deterrent that it is. But he's also long enough to catch the long caroms, reach out
Yeah,
there and grab him.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe Wimbiana one day, but no, I don't see anybody else grabbing 40 or anything like that. But
That's
for that.
crazy.
That is crazy. But for that is this day in NBA history. All right, let's get into this tonight the best that we can. I think we've been talking a little bit about playoffs, who we think's going to win, and all that. I want to talk about what I consider greatest slash best playoff runs. And I know I asked you to make up a list, and talk about some of the ones you want. For me, I'm going to talk about more so most impressive runs. Like for example, the 2017 Warriors. I didn't put them on my list. I understand completely if someone puts them on. They went 16-1, but the reason why is I didn't want to talk about them. Is I'm gonna leave it all to you because I know they were your boys. Uh, they were expected to go 16-1. Who was expected to beat them? You had people like Nick Wright, saying that LeBron James, who's their fourth player that he was trying to add, Tristan Thompson or something like that, is like the Draymond Green equivalent. So yeah, I'm just not doing with play teams that we saw dominate the regular season. Um, and do it. But like I said,
Mm.
if you got the best runs or whatever, and you want to bring up the numbers and you want to talk, completely understand why. But we'll go back and forth. I'm hoping to like maybe say some ones that people didn't think of. For this exercise, I only did teams that had to win 4 rounds. So that's from what 84 on or so. Uh, so that's it. So the first one I want to get into is the 2011 Mavs. I don't think people really understand how impressive that playoff run was. Just let me give you a little bit from it. First off, it was against Portland. That was Brandon Roy's last playoff series, and everybody thought Brandon Roy was going to be a future Hall of Famer. Uh,
What's that?
then they faced the two-time defending champions, Kobe. A lot of people have him as the best, top two, top three, top five, top 10, whatever. Um, even his biggest detractors can't really take him outside the top 12 to 15. So um, they absolutely destroyed LA, swept them in 4, which is crazy because Kobe never gets flack for getting swept by the Mavs, but LeBron always gets flack for losing in 6 to the Mavs, and I've never really understood why that is. But then they faced Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, beat them in 5, and then they beat Miami in 6. Now, the reason why it was so impressive is if you take a look at their history before that, and just with their history, that is, we'll go all the way back to 03. 03, Dirk gets injured in the Western Conference Finals. They were 1-1 at the time. They ended up losing in 6. That was probably the best chance that Nash, Finley, Dirk trio had of winning a title. 04, they lost in the first round of Sacramento Kings in 5 games, got beat down 4-1. Um, 05, Nash returns, one of my all-time favorite scenes ever. Um, Nash was coming down game 6, and I believe it was on Jason Terry. And if it wasn't Jason, it was one of the guards. But anyways, he's coming down. He goes to the left side of it, pulls up, hits a 3. Dirk is just screaming at him, and you can't see what he's saying, but basically, the fuck could you let that happen? Blah blah blah. Ties the game up. They go to overtime. Nash does the exact same play in game 6 in overtime to take the lead. This time he does it against Dirk, and Dirk doesn't scream at himself on the way to the bench. So that was what's funny was about that. '06, they end up going up 2-0. They end up losing in 6 after Wade and the refs just put on an absolute clinic against them. It was a tight game, game 3. They folded, just, never got their momentum back. Funny enough, we saw that 13 years later against Toronto and the Bucks. The Bucks won first 2 games, folded in game 3, and then lost in 6. Um, '07, they lose in 6 to the Mavericks, team that had won. I'm sorry, they lose to the Warriors, a team that had won 25 less games than them in the regular season. The next year, they lost to Chris Paul in 5 in '08. In '09, they lost to Denver in 5, giving Carmelo Anthony his first and only first round win in Denver. Then they lose as a second seed to the Spurs in the first round in 6. That's the third first round exit in 4 years. And if you look at their run, most analysts had Dallas versus Portland about a 50-50 split. A lot were picking Portland to upset Dallas because of their playoff failures every year. Then everybody picked the Lakers over the Dallas. To be honest with you, that is one of my all-time regrets in sports betting. If I would have known what I know now, I would have put so much money on the Mavs in a sweep. That
Is it,
and the 99 Rams to win after Trent Green went out in the first in preseason. Those would have been my 2 biggest things I could have won so much money on. Um,
um we you got your Marty McFly popping.
oh my God, I would love to have my Marty McFly popping. Um, so then in the next one, a lot of people were picking Oklahoma City in 5. I think John Barry, Mark Stein, and Barkley were the only ones that chose Dallas that year. Then we had they lost their second best player, Karan Butler, midway through the season. He was averaging 16. He was shooting 42% from 3. He had a season-ending injury. He was also starting coming to 4. They went 17-1 prior to his and Dirk's injuries, and then they went 2-9 with those out of the lineup. Um, they also had like close games they were winning. They won close games with Portland, games 3 and 5. LA close games 1 and 3. OKC, all of those all the games they won were close games. Miami close games in 2, 3, and 4. They had buzzer beaters. They had Dirk's layup with 4 seconds left in game 2. They had Kidd hit the game-winning free throws in game 1 against the Lakers, and then Dirk hit a couple free throws in game 4 to send it in OT in game 4. They beat like 11 all-stars within their prime or a year in their prime, 2 Hall of Fame level coaches, including probably the greatest coach of all time and Phil Jackson, 9 future
mm.
Hall of Famers. They had multiple 10-point fourth quarter comebacks. One, did the 2011 Mavs rank on your list as one of the all-time great playoff runs? And two, are you really impressed with, now that I broke it down, just how impressive that run is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that they really went on a run though. It's faint to me. Like I don't recall them going on a run like that for so long, but at the same time, I do remember the Mavs always had like they always had a team in developing. Like I always felt like they were a player away. Like during that time, during the 2000s, during the 2000, close to the early 2010s and stuff like that. Yeah, early 2000s to 2010, the Mavs, they always seemed like they was one of them teams to compete with. They always had a deep roster. Actually, they always had a lot of deep players, in my opinion.
Well,
So,
they had a good owner and people wanted to come play for them.
and that's that's the key. But with that, no, it doesn't really surprise me. I didn't have them on my list, but at the same time, I can definitely see why that would be impressive. Like you said, the
Yes.
consistency there. How can you not be impressed with consistency? And then when you're definitely seeing it actually lead to something, like I said, they for a while you got different players that are coming in and they're helping them win and everything like that, and they actually saw a title eventually from this. So
Yeah,
yeah,
especially
that's
when you
something to be
factor
impressed.
in especially when you factor in all level superstars, like all world first class, like Durant, LeBron, Kobe. And then they had those next tier levels in guys like Wade, Westbrook, Harden. They beat them. Then they had the other, future Hall of Famers like Gasol, LaMarcus Aldridge. They beat them. I just think it was
Mhm.
crazy. Give me somebody you got.
So this is like, hmm, dang, my phone is messing up. I'm going with Philly. I'm going with the 83 Philly 76ers team. Team
Foe,
that ended up,
foe, foe.
you said 4-4-4.
They asked Moses Malone, "What's your prediction for the playoffs?" Foe, foe, foe.
Yeah,
12-1.
man. Yeah, they ended up going 12-1. Like you said, they ended up sweeping. You feel me? They ended up sweeping the Celtics. And this is during the time when the Celtics had who Bird still,
McHale.
Mikhail, Parrish. So yeah, that's why I'm going with them.
What's also crazy is not only did they sweep the Celtics, they absolutely destroyed the Lakers in the finals. Their only loss was to the Bucks in 5. They he just if you watch that series, they just completely Moses Malone completely dismantled Kareem Abdul-Jabbar up over the rim. I mean, that dude was what, 26 and 18, over
Mm,
51% in that final series. Jabbar was 23 and 7.5 rebounds. Like Malone, I mean, the dude's 7'2", and Malone's not letting him get any boards. Magic Johnson out rebounded him. Bob McAdoo, who came off the bench playing 21 minutes a game, he only got 7 rebounds in that. He got 7. So yeah, they absolutely dismantled and killed him. Nobody else really had like a crazy series. Andrew Toney was, I think he was getting like 22 a game, but he's shooting like low 40s to get there.
mm.
Um, yeah, that is a good point. Um,
Dang, why I
he
see
was
that
really
already?
no, well, 83 Muslim was really his last great year. His efficiency dropped after that. Yeah, I agree with that. He still put up good years, many years after. He was good on the Bullets when he got traded as well. Um, but yeah, they dominated. Yeah, there was Ainge, Sports Fluent even said it. Fluent told us Ainge was on that team, but that was young Ainge. He wasn't really playing quite like that. They still had Cedric Maxwell. They had Gerald Henderson. Um, yeah, what really made it stand out for you? What is it? The beating? Is it the sweeping of the Celtics and the Lakers, the two teams that really defined the '80s?
For me, it actually was that because of that fact, because it's almost like passed under the torch, which they didn't actually do, but it looked like it could have gone that way. So yeah,
The next up, I'm gonna have a
feel that.
recent one. I got a recent one, and that's the 2021 Bucks. And the reason why is because they beat the Heat in the first round, and those were the defending conference champions. And we see the
Hmm.
Heat serious. They're contending every year, no matter what their record is in the regular season. Round two, they're down 0-2 against Brooklyn. They come back, beat Brooklyn. Round three, they lost game one. They lost Giannis to an injury in game four, and they still wrapped up the series in six. Then once again, they were down against the Suns 0-2, and it still hurts. But I really thought the Suns were going to win it after that one. And they still found a way, and Giannis went next level with that 50-point performance and all that. So when you just factor in, he beat an all-time player in Chris Paul, he beat all-time player in Kevin Durant, he beat the epitome of hard work, hustle in Jimmy Butler, and he beat an extremely talented player in Trey Young.
Yeah, and Trey was what's crazy during that series, Trey, or actually before that series, but the way Trey was looking in the playoffs that season, it was
Hmm.
looking real good for Atlanta, like for real. Like I didn't realize how on point his dimes be until I watched him doing on playoffs. And it seemed like when Trey wants the ball right at the rim, it's going straight there. All you got to do is touch it.
Hmm.
Like his lobs is crazy, and I didn't realize that. But yeah, that was the series, and that was the season that made me start paying attention to how accurate Trey can be.
Well, I don't think, can you be a bad passer getting double digits a game, double digit assists a game? Like even some of the worst, like you see some of the Westbrook passes, and a lot of people don't consider him a great passer. I mean, he's got some awesome feeds and all that. He just, would shoot the ball 25 times a game.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, used to be wild, man.
right. But I mean, I think, if you can get 10 assists a game in the NBA, you have to have the ability to pass. So, and that's what Trey's been doing on and off, for his career. He's always right around there, 9, those are real numbers.
Mhm.
Who else you got for us?
So I got the '96 Bulls. Bulls that went 15-3. The reason why is because at this point they were up against Miami, as you just mentioned. Miami been in a run for a long time. Like Miami, if
Since
they gonna
Riley.
give you since who?
Since they got
Oh, since
Riley, they're
Riley,
always
since Pat
there.
Riley,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's what he brings. You feel me?
Mhm.
Everywhere Pat Riley goes, if you notice, it's always gonna be some heart there. I don't know what he be teaching, but every organization that he rocks with is full of heart. It's full of dope players and stuff. But so they had to go up against Miami. Had to go up against New York. This is during a time where New York is killing. This is during a time where New York is like damn near just a game out of going to the finals. And this is a New York team that we have seen go to the finals. Orlando, they going up against the same team that has showed them that we can beat you. So, they had to come back with a vendetta against Orlando, and then Seattle went up against Seattle that's got the Hall of Fame Gary Payton, got the athleticism of Sean Kemp, who they wanted to trade for Scotty. So, yeah, I'm going with that roster. This is a very dominant Bulls team at that point in time as well. So,
Well, what I really liked about the Bulls, if you watch that, there was no more impressive win than Orlando. They had just came off beating them. They went from 57 wins to 60 wins. Not only did they go from 57 wins to 60 wins, they went to 60 wins with, I believe Shaq played 79 games somewhere in there in the 95 season. It dropped to
mhm.
like 54 games in 96. So he played about 25 less games, and still they won more games. They had the confidence, and I think the confidence was shattered after game one, because I don't know if you remember that game one, but the Bulls beat them by 40. And that's a little hyperbole. I am exaggerating. They really beat them by 38. So after that game one, I was like, dude, I mean, I thought the Magic were going to beat them because, the team had gotten better. The players had gotten better. Obviously Jordan after 30, everybody told me 28 was the peak. Should be going down. Um, Orlando tried to fight back game two. They lost by 5. Um, then they went to Orlando. We were going to see something different then. They had prime Penny. They had not a prime Shaq, but a close to 30 a game Shaq. They dropped 67 points in game 3 on them. And then they wrapped it up in 4. It was crazy. Mike shot like 60 something percent. I want to say like 65% from 3, somewhere around there. He shot like over 50 from the field, and it was just total domination. I was actually seeing this today about Rodman. They're like, Rodman was 6'8", 220. He couldn't stop nobody nowadays. I was like, yo, they used to put Rodman on Shaq.
What are
They
you
used to
talking
put
about?
Rodman on Shaq. I'm not saying he stopped Shaq because who did, but he did just as good a job as anybody. So
These these days, Rodman's stopping almost everybody. I mean, Rodman is really, you can argue one way or another as far as Dre, as far as which one of them is more physical, but
mhm,
Rodman appears to be a little more athletic.
right.
He's getting up higher than a Draymond. He's sacrificing his body a lot more than a Draymond. So it's underrated. Yeah, I feel like we talked about that one too.
No, we talked about when we were talking about greatest teams in the Central. We picked 93 Bulls. Well, it got voted to the 93 Bulls. So,
But we didn't touch on that run at all, that playoff
well,
run.
yeah, well, obviously we touched on their run because
Okay,
we were talking about the 93 Bulls.
yeah,
Obviously I
fair
talked
enough.
about who they beat and all that. Um, yeah, so to me the most impressive thing about the 96 Bulls was the dismantling of Orlando.
Yeah, and like also to touch on the point of game one, it's like when you do that to a young team, when you strip their heart out like that, when they're so young, this is what you see. You see them start collapsing. They could have given their best effort, but their confidence wasn't there. So it was like, they're not gonna be able to produce after that type of defeat. And like I said, Bulls coming back with that vendetta at that point in time after losing to them, it was just Mike felt like there was hell to be paid. He took it personal.
No, I feel you. We talked about this recently when we were going over greatest teams of Southwest. I'm going to go into the next run. And that's the 99 Spurs. They went 15-2.
Bad man.
Um, they completely dismantled a Kobe Shaq team, swept them. Um, they lost by 1 point early on to Kevin Garnett, Timberwolves, and then they proceeded to win 12 straight. They um, they lost game 3 of the finals against the Knicks, and that was it. And there was just no stopping the and they won with defense. They weren't scoring much, but they didn't allow the teams to score anything as well. Did you have them on your list?
I did.
What do you got to say about them?
I mean, you're saying the same things that I was or I would say about him, but Spurs was another one of those teams, kind of like Dallas, where you see them developing their players and everything. Like, you shaking your head?
No, no, no. I'm listening.
Oh, but they were kind of like, how we were talking about Dallas, where you're seeing them develop and bring these players in. You're seeing, especially the Spurs, because they're the type of team that really is built on gelling with one another and everything like that. So, given that, it was great to watch that era. It was great to watch Tim dominating and continue that for the rest of his career the way he was, just consistently with that team. Just
Do you think that's the best defensive team that the Spurs had?
um, I mean, I kind of like the defensive edge that they had when they had the Kawhi and when they also had Green to go with Tim and Ginobili and Parker and them. So I can
Well,
see how.
I know that's kind of more the dead ball area and stuff like that, that dead ball era. But I don't know if you realize this. Do you know the Spurs held teams in that playoff run to more 60-point games than 100-point games?
Mm,
They had two times that the teams and the low was 63, I believe. And only Shaq and Kobe, and they lost by 11 in that game, scored 107 once. Nobody else cracked 100. Most didn't crack 90.
Hmm. But
So
also, this
go
is
ahead.
this is still this is also still during an era where, even though we had shooters at that point in time, it wasn't as high volume as now. So
Hmm.
because players are more in the paint during the 99, 2000, stuff like that, it's a little, when you have bigger men, when you have centers, when you have power forwards that can really body you, that'll keep you out of the post. So that could be part of what's keeping these points down as well.
No, I feel you on that. Who else you got for us? You got another one for us?
So I actually wanted to go with the 2016 Cavs.
Okay.
Um, had a record of 16 and 5. Went up against Detroit, uh, Atlanta, Toronto, and what really stood out to me really was Golden State. The fact that they were able to turn that series around against them. Golden State coming off that 73-9, it was almost supposed to be written. It was supposed to be a given for them, and all it took was that light. All it took, and I don't even want to blame Dre going down for it. Really what it was is LeBron and Kyrie just refused to give up. They refused to give up in the playoffs. So they're running through, obviously, if they're 16 and 5 and three of their losses came from Golden State, they were running through teams. You feel me? Two losses going into the finals, and they look like, after, what was it, game four? I mean, I was rooting for Golden State, obviously, but after game four, it really didn't look good for us.
You know what's crazy is that's out one of my all-time mysteries is after LeBron in game 6 when you could feel the series turning when he blocked Steph and he was saying something to him, he had that face and all that. I would literally give up the title to your car and your paycheck to find out what he said.
He called him. I thought he called him a little. He said something derogatory, like little ass some. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said something like that, or maybe I'm thinking of a different block that he had on Steph. But he
No,
basically
it's the
told
one
him
where
he
he
was
was
too little.
where he was side mouthing him and stuff and
Yeah,
saying that to him.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think he's basically just sunning, is what it seemed like.
Oh, I know,
Um,
but that's what I'm saying. I would love to know verbatim. I have looked and looked and looked. I cannot find the transcript. So if there is somebody out there that knows or they can read lips really well, please let me know because I mean, obviously, I got the gist of what he was saying, but I would just love to know verbatim what he said. What would you say to the what? Like I said, I so much so I would give up the deed to Neek's car and his paycheck
how you gonna
to
give up the
find out
deeds on my car and my paycheck?
because I'm
Neither one of
generous
those is signed
like
over
that.
to you.
Because I'm
Um,
generous like
we
that. You're trying to keep it all for yourself. I'm trying to spread the love.
No, you're
Um,
trying to keep it for yourself. I'm spreading it.
well, there you go. So I'm making you a better person. It's better to give than to get.
Mm.
Back to the point though, at the hand, what would you say to the detractors that would be like, yeah, it was a great accomplishment to beat the 73-9 Warriors, but the run itself wasn't that good because that's been kind of the argument with the first 3 rounds.
How was it? I mean, the run wasn't good the first 3 rounds. I mean, let's see. As far as Detroit at that point in time, this is still a Detroit team that has tasted um has tasted success within recent years. Well, not that recent actually. Now that I think about it.
Or are you just saying that because they beat the 73 runs, that's why you're giving them their flowers? That's good enough
I
for the whole
mean,
run.
I am giving the flowers because of that, but like I'm really like taking into consideration the argument that the run on the way there wasn't that great. Like, it's like we're still talking about these teams did make it. They did make it to the playoffs. They did have to go up against them, and they showed up. You feel me? It's not like they went against these teams that are going to be what considered mediocre, not that great. Okay. They went against these teams that are not that great and ran through them.
No, I feel you on that.
So it'd
I
be,
want to I want to transition into Detroit though, because actually I have Detroit on my list. I have the 89 Pistons. And so the 89 Pistons, they went 15-2. They beat Boston, Milwaukee, Chicago, and LA. So they beat Bird, Jordan, Magic. Um, they beat Hall of Famers like once again those three: Dennis Johnson, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Scottie Pippen, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was Kareem's last. They retired him. James Worthy. Um, they swept the Celtics in the first round. They swept the Lakers. Now people are going to say that the Lakers got hurt, but the year before that, Isaiah Thomas was hurt, and they were up 3-2.
mm,
So it's not like they weren't on their way. They beat the Bulls in what was it? They beat the Bulls in six, and that was their only two losses was Jordan. So the only two losses they had to be by the greatest player of all time, or an argument for the greatest player of all time. So did the Pistons make your list? The 89
um,
Pistons?
yeah. I wasn't shocked that you said them, no, but yeah, they did.
I got two more after this. How many you got?
Too as well. But one of the ones that I got was one that you wanted to keep. Actually, you probably want to keep both of the ones I got, but one of them you did speak on
Okay.
that you did want to keep off the list because I did have the Warriors on my list as well.
No,
I
no, no,
had
no. I
the
don't want to keep them off the list. I'm saying this is my list. Give me your list for whatever reason.
well, I have the 2017 Warriors on my list.
By the numbers, the greatest playoff run ever.
Yeah, they did go through. For me, it is, but the Portland team that they went through, this is a clutch game. You feel me? Even Utah, this is a 51-31 season team.
Hmm.
San Antonio, you already know the story with San Antonio, and I also feel as though San Antonio are the ones who actually really gave Golden State that itch in the beginning. Because when you were seeing Golden State go up against San Antonio specifically before they started going on their dynasty run, you can see just spurts. You can see in Steph and Clay. Like I remember I was telling people like, yo, they're next. Like it was obvious to me just the confidence and just how comfortable they were at times. Fast forwarding to now you're seeing them turning that into these crazy historic playoffs, crazy historic season records, and then going through the playoffs, losing only one game, going 16-1. Granted, the game they lost was a blowout, but that could have just been fatigue. Um, you got both Steph and KD during this series, both of them shooting 40% at least from both the field and the three.
Hmm.
Um, High volumes at that, averaging, I forgot the exact number, but they're averaging like
Well,
close to
KD
30. I think
averaged.
they're averaging
Well,
like
KD
28.
KD averaged like 35 in the finals. I remember that, and I think Steph averaged almost like 10 boards, something crazy like that.
Yeah, but I meant just through like the playoffs in general, not just the finals. They were both
Okay.
averaging like close to 30. But yeah, to your point, KD averaging 35 in the finals against LeBron, against Kyrie, Kevin Love. So I get they can argue that the Warriors team was heavy, but at the same time, really it was Steph and KD that was really putting in the most work. You had Draymond that was giving you like, I think like 13, and he's doing what he does as far as rebounding and defending and everything like that.
Distributing.
Um, Distributing exactly. Clay had taken a step back offensively because of the punch of KD and Steph, and those two were able to get it done. Not just
So
them two, but you know what I mean.
Well, I was going to say this. So, like I said, by the numbers, it is the greatest run of all time. The best run. Let's not go with greatest, but the best run because greatest is more subjective. But best, 16-1. The only loss they had is like you said. But they were up 3-2, so it could have just been, whatever that game.
Right.
Um, LeBron averaged a triple double that series, and there is a legitimate argument that KD outplayed him. So Yeah, no, I like I said, I
Yeah.
understand why. I just didn't want to put these in because everybody remembers that one, everybody knows that one. I wanted to break down some of the numbers of the more impressive runs that nobody really remembers. But I can't argue with that. Like I said, if it's by the numbers, all these other things are just opinions.
Mhm.
You got anything else you want to say on them?
Um, Also, like I feel like Steph might have got robbed for MVP, but that's another story. But yeah,
No, and maybe that's another case. The next one I got up is, and I don't know if you have these guys in here. I have the '01 Lakers. I have the
that was
'01
that
Lake.
was
That's
that
the
was
next
it.
one. Right. One of the best things about them, they went 15-1, but to me it was their plus 13. That is hard to do in the playoffs. They went through everybody was through 50 win teams, and the last
Hmm.
three were 55 plus win teams. Their opponents' wins and loss percentage was something like 67%. They beat Hall of Famers like Pippen, Sabonis, Duncan, Robinson, Iverson, Matumbo, Weber. Exactly. They what was it? What was I going to say? The only loss they had was Allen Iverson's maybe best game ever in Game One of the Finals when he stepped over
He had to
Tyronn
drop.
Lue,
He had to
and that
drop
and that,
48.
yeah, he dropped 48, and it had to take him to overtime to do it. And then what's crazy is if you watch that series, there was like they had a chance to win it up until the last few like seconds, about 45 seconds or whatever. It looked like it wasn't going to happen in game two. And then in about game three, it looked like, it wasn't going to happen by about 3 minutes left. And then game four, it just got progressively
Worse.
worse for them. Um, yeah, they absolutely destroyed the Spurs in that series. Kobe played awesome in the Western Conference Finals. Shaq played unbelievable in the finals. So yeah, I don't, '01 is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, '01, they were destroying literally everybody. It didn't matter if you were a good team, bad team, everybody was getting it. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with the '01 team. It's hard to go against that one.
No, no, no doubt. So you got any more teams, or you want me to tell you the all-time greatest playoff run ever?
Well, since that was my team, yeah, who you got
95 Rockets by far. And anybody
by
that's listened to
far?
me by far, and it's like not even close. Um, how good it was. So they were the six seed. They won every series on the round. They beat the top four teams with the best records in the league. Let's just break it down. First round, they faced a 60-win Utah team with an MVP in Carl Malone and an all-time record holder in John Stockton, Hall of Famers both. They both made All NBA first teams that year. Speaking of which, in their run, they beat the four out of the five All NBA team members that year, first team. They were down 0-2 in that series. They came back in 1-5. I got to give props to Hakeem. So because I will argue this to the death of me. Hakeem is better than Kobe, and people look at me like I'm nuts. But Hakeem will use that series. He averaged 35 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 57% shooting. Second round, they went up against a Phoenix Suns team that was 59-23. They fell to that down 3-1. Uh, Game five elimination. They won in OT. Hakeem had 31 and 16. Game six,
Mm,
he had 30 points, 8 boards, 10 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks. Game seven, Kevin Johnson went off for 46 and 10. Barkley had 23 boards. Hakeem dropped 29. His stats for that series is 39, 4, 2 blocks, 51% shooting. Goes up against the MVP and David Robinson, wins the first two games on the road, loses the next two at home, wins the last two. Um, Game two, he had 41 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Game three, 43 points, 11 boards, 4 assists, 5 blocks. Game five, 42 on 66% shooting, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 blocks. Game six to close them out, 39 points, 64% from the field, 17 boards, 5 shots, held David Robinson to 6 for 17. His stats for that series is 35, 13, 5, a steal, 4 blocks on 56% shooting. Uh, after David Robinson, which was the MVP, he gets to match up with Shaq. So they
mhm.
they they had 57 wins. They had finals. They were down by 20 in game one. He was the leading scorer in all 4 games. Shaq put up 28 and 12 against Hakeem, and Hakeem put up 33, 12, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. So they beat the top 4 teams. They beat. There's a meme out there where they're always giving Kobe props for beating 50-win teams, and 4 of them. This dude beat 4 57-win teams at least, including 260s. So that is by far the greatest playoff run of all time. I think because of that, the Rockets are the greatest team of all time, not the best, nowhere near the best, but the greatest team of all time. And I don't know why more people aren't realizing just how great the 95 Rockets were in that regard. Any comments on them? Comments, concerns?
I mean, I like the 94 Rockets a little better, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, these are both extremely great teams. And plus, I think part of the reason why I like them better is because of Maxwell. But that aside, though, the 95 Rockets is to me an extremely great team. I mean, this is during a time where there was really no controlling what Akeem Olajuwon can do. This is a point in time where he's just what he say? He killing them with that lateral movement.
He
Like
was killing them with that lateral
this is
movement.
what's going on. And then the squad is deep. You feel me? You got a Sam Cassell, is getting buckets, giving you threes, giving you distribution, he's guarding. It's just that Rockets team was extremely deep, and they did what they were supposed to do with such a team.
So there we have it for the playoff runs. Let's get into some of the worst trades in NBA history if we can. You want to start us off for any ones you got, or
Yeah, I'd say the Jazz. The Jazz of '78, the trade that they did. Why you smile? You smile?
that was the first one I was going to bring up because not many
Was
people
it?
know that. Yeah,
All
go
right,
ahead.
so all right, so in '78, the Jazz and the Lakers, they came up with a trade where they were going to send 3 players from the Jazz to the Lakers and vice versa, 3 players from the Lakers to the Jazz. However, the Lakers would also get a first round pick. Well, the next the following season, Jazz ends up in last place, so they do get that first round pick. Ends up going to LA because of the trade deal. LA ends up with Magic Johnson. Well, Magic Johnson, rookie season, doesn't get rookie of the year, but he does get a championship. Not only does he get a championship, but he also is the MVP. So that's one of them. That's one of them. You got to be slapping yourself after this trade. And then on top of that,
No,
the players that you traded for, they didn't even help you at all.
you don't like S.E. Givens?
Not any more than Gail Goodrich.
Well, what about Jack Givens?
I trade him for Kenny Carr, I suppose.
Real quick, we got a question, so I want to know what you think. Then we'll get back into the worst trades in NBA history.
Good
Should
question.
Wimby be playing more than 28.6 minutes per game, and if so, how much? He's averaging what,
Yeah,
20 and 10 and 28 minutes.
he, I think he should. The reason why I think he should is more so to get acclimated to the NBA style of play, and then that way also so that he can get accustomed to playing high volume and long minutes because he's expected to do this in the future. He's going to be the franchise, so he's going to be out there a little more. So he needs the experience. He needs to log in some more minutes. I get it can be a risk health wise. You don't want nothing to happen to him and everything like that. So you might want to minimize it because of that. But at the same time, I do feel as though he do still needs to get his bearings. So Wimby, especially as much as he can contribute because he's unlike what we've seen in the past. So there's so much development that can go on with him. So Wimby should be probably at around like 30, 31 minutes a game.
So I'm with you. He should definitely play more. If and I don't know what his body, and I'm not a trainer, and I'm not a medical staff or anything like that, but I would love to see him up around 36 to really see what he can do. Um, there was right here, at least 32. I agree with that, but maybe only 30 because of his frame and he's so tall and he's so long. You know who he reminds me of, kind of, with like his movement, is like Rick Smits.
Dang.
I think they have similar frame, but I'm saying Rick Smits, he never averaged 31 a game, and that's back when people played that. So I'm saying once you start getting to that height where you're just standing and blocking shots and doing things like that, where you can just reach everywhere and all. I don't know if you really can play more than 30 minutes a game because of it, from what I've seen. But if it was up to me, as far as like, it has nothing to do with fatigue, it would just have to do with injury. Where am I going? I'm maxing him out. I'm playing him 36, 38. I mean, I'm gonna ride until the wheels fall off. But
And
so they're gonna go. Hold on, wait. So Duncan average, but Duncan was 7'1", and that kind of looks. I'm not saying it's not tall, but it looks normal on a basketball court. Wimby does not look normal. He looks much longer, taller, all that. Tim Duncan, he's 7 foot, 6'11", somewhere in there. Same thing. So I'm not saying that players can't average. LeBron averaged close to 40. Iverson played 42 throughout his career.
plus, not to cut you off, but like with a player like Tim's
Hmm.
also not doing what Wendy is doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as his style, his game's a little more relaxed. Like Tim's not bringing the ball up, Tim's not trying to cross people, and Tim's not trying to hit shots like he's a point or not a point guard, like a shooting guard. Tim is
Hmm.
very much a center. He's very much a power guy. He's very much like I'm gonna stay in his pocket. I got a comfortable shot here, but Wendy is more of a hybrid. You feel me? Tim was more of a pure position player. Wemby's one of them. He's gonna give you. I mean, Wemby is out there, the tallest person in the league, but he's also capable of playing like a point guard, playing like a shooting guard, playing like a small. So Wemby can play like all of these different positions. So he got a slightly different bag, and because of that, I feel as though you do need to protect him a little more as far as minute wise and usage goes, just because something bad can happen just with the way he plays. Hopefully not, like on wood, but yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
that's the difference though, between a Wimby and a Duncan.
yeah. I
Aside
was gonna
from the height,
I was gonna say too, if you played him like those 36 that I would love to see him play, he's getting 26 and 13 and getting over 4 blocks a game. And it has been so long since we have a 4 blocks a game guy. So
and probably even more than that, to be honest.
he's a once in a generation type player, so it must be hard for Pop to want to play him a lot, knowing that they aren't competing. Even if they're not competing, then what's the point of not playing him? What are you saving him for?
When they get in a better position, I suppose, like it might be in a sense of we're not gonna play him as much this season. Let him learn from the bench a little bit. I
What
could
are you
see
what are,
that.
what are you learning from the bench?
You can learn a lot. I mean, it depends on how observant you are. There's so much game out there within the game. So you feel me? Just you can watch temperaments or you can watch pacing of games. You can study players a little better. So there's all kinds of things you can actually learn from the bench. Now I get the best experiences. I mean the best teachers, the experience and actually being out there, but I don't sleep on what can be taught and learned from the bench.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm not saying that nothing can be taught and learned from the bench, but you can learn those things in practice. If you're playing, 4 extra minutes, what are you really learning from the bench as opposed to being out there? A lot of people, the best way to learn it is to do it, is by doing it. So
There's
I'm
no
not saying
reps
that.
in practice. There, you feel me? Those games don't count. So it's like you're this is one of the things you can learn. You can learn, okay, I know what to do with this rep, or I know what to do in this position, or I know what to do in this situation, things like that. Some of the things you can learn in practice, basically, like some of that in game knowledge.
Um, yeah, we have a very random question. I don't even know where this came from, but yeah. What are my thoughts on Cliff Hagan? So first off, one of my thoughts on Cliff
I don't
Hagan's is
even know.
I think it's impressive that he's still alive because he's got to be like what 92, 93. He came into the league late. He came into the league about 25. He's the second major reason behind Bob Pettit, the reason why the Celtics lost that finals in what was that 59, 58, one of the two. Um, I mean, he was getting what? He was getting close to 25 a game. He was getting like 10, 11 boards. Really, what was really impressive about Cliff Hagan is if you see his free throw percentage, he starts off shooting 69. He's in the 80s in a couple years, so he really improved that. And the most impressive thing about Cliff Hagan is back in the dead ball era when people were shooting the ball like shit, he could get you around 47%. 46%, 45. So that's one of the things that really impressed me about Cliff Hagan. Um, Also, what's crazy is he retired, then he went to the ABA and he was shooting like 60% in the ABA. So I think as the game
Damn right.
developed for him, he just got more mental with it and he realized angles better and things like that. I don't think he was very athletic. Maybe he was athletic from them, but he was very, on the floor player. But like I said, he played team ball. He played it well. Um, I think he was like top 10 in MVP a couple of years and all that. I mean, he's Hall of Fame. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Cliff Hagan.
That just
I
made
actually,
me.
what's crazy? What's crazy? Just to let you know, Bob Pettit actually called me back yesterday. I missed his call. I've been calling him back ever since. So I'm trying to get Bob Pettit on the podcast. He's 90 as well. I'll ask him what his thoughts were on Cliff Hagan. He'd have a better
I was
idea
just
than
thinking
me.
that. That's so funny. Real quick on Cliff Hagan and even players like him. So just out of curiosity, how you take this? Do you think players who go to the league at an older age have more of advantage or disadvantage than the players that go to the league young?
So that's a both thing. I guess it depends on what you're asking. I think they have an advantage of the fact if I'm a 25-year-old rookie and you're an 18-year-old rookie, I'm smarter than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm probably not as fast as you, and I probably can't, but it's just a minor exposed to my strength is this much, my mental is this much, so it evens out. So I think they have an advantage in playing well off the bat in that regard. One of the best rookie seasons ever was David Robinson. He was 24 his rookie year. So that's where I think now I think you have a disadvantage because if one's 18 and one's 25, well, at 7 years, that's potentially seven all-star games, seven all NBAs, 7 years worth of points, 7 years worth of money. So it's a disadvantage. So overall, I think it's more of a disadvantage as far as like money, accolades, where your standings are, where's your statistical ranking, where your awards are, where your championships can be, because you're giving up 7 years. But yeah, you're better right off the bat. I mean, Ginobili was what, 25 his rookie year, only getting like 9 a game. So yeah, I do think you're going to be a better player probably, but overall, no, I think it hurts you because you lose more money and you lose more prestige.
Mm, fair enough.
To answer this question, hold on real quick. Well, I just talked about the 99 Rams. I can talk football, but it's not my expertise. So, I mean, I can give you some I'll put it this way. I knew Lamar Jackson wasn't going to win anything. He's a choker. He always loses. I put money on that. I was surprised he won one game. I knew the Cowboys weren't going to win. I put money on that, and I was right on that. I always bet against the Cowboys. I always bet against Lamar Jackson, and I never bet against Patrick Mahomes. So I know that much about football. I
Hey,
played
that
football. I mean, I thought I was Deion Sanders back in high school, but
I
what's up?
nah, I didn't even mean to say that out loud, but I ain't gonna even front though. This past Super Bowl was pretty hard though. Like it was exciting. Like it's been a minute since I watched an exciting Super Bowl like that, all the way down to the wire. That's the type of games you want for the finals. So yeah,
No,
can't
yeah,
can't
I mean, it
bet,
was it was it was an awesome
can't,
Super Bowl.
can't bet against
Um,
Pat.
no, yeah, I didn't bet against Pat. I knew they were going to win. I bet on them. So, um, yeah, I knew they were going to win. So, yeah, my football knowledge isn't nearly as good. I mean, I can tell you some crazy stuff that I do know about football, but basketball is definitely my just to show
Tough
y'all. I
love.
mean, if y'all want to see it, here we go. Like one of these examples, and I've showed this before, but I sit and I just do basketball statistics for fun, and that is how I know the things that I know. And that's how actually I watch football as well. I pay attention to the numbers. I break down the numbers, and that's how I watch the games. I have an OCD with numbers, and I'm obsessive compulsive with them. So, yeah, the 99 Rams actually were my favorite team of all time. If I could have any jersey, it would be Isaac Bruce. He has one of the dopest nicknames ever, the Reverend. You know why his nickname's the Reverend, right?
Taking on the church every Sunday.
No, he leads you on Sunday.
Oh yeah, yeah. Man, I
So,
thought he was a fuck boy.
oh no, I love Marshall Falk or whatever, but Marshall Falk, I had the jersey. I never got an Isaac Bruce one, so that's where I would like to get one. So So if anybody's out there, and that's what I want for Christmas. I want a Isaac Bruce 99 Rams jersey. If you really want to know. Um, Next question. Hold on, wait a minute. Did you want me to talk about Donald? I was never a big fan of Donald. I know he made like 4 or 5 All-Star teams in a row. He was getting you about what 18. I know he cracked 20 a couple times. But to be a shooting guard, a point guard, I just don't think he scored enough really to be like an all-timer. Like I said, barely cracking 20. I either did it once or twice in his career. I don't really remember. And I know his assists were down low. I think he has a career high of like 4. Um,
Mm.
he's not in the Hall of Fame for good reason. So yeah, Don Ole is. I mean, he was a good player. I'm not saying he wasn't. Especially for the times and stuff, but just really nothing. Nothing special about him. Well, if you met Don, let him know. We'd love to have him on the podcast to talk about it, and we could talk about why he didn't make the Hall of Fame and what he could have done to step up his game. I remember one time I was
You're gonna
shopping.
tell him that?
Well, hey, that time I talked to Devin Booker, I told him what he needed to do. Once again, it's what the numbers say. I'm just telling you, bro. I don't run the plays. I don't do any of that, but I can tell you the numbers you need to hit to get where you want to be. Whatever you got to do to hit these numbers is where you got to be. And that's why I said Devin Booker. I think he's one of the coolest players. If you've ever been out here to Phoenix, that's why the city loves him. He's accepted. It's his town. He tweets out, "Hey, come out. We need your support. This is my city." Just things like that. And he's really active in the community, and people love him because of it. But what was I going to say? But we're out of time. We don't even have time for trades anymore. We don't even have time for but I appreciate your guys' questions. We can keep doing it
Yeah,
like this too. It's more interactive. But yeah, we'll have to break down Allen Iverson another time. Sometimes we don't get to politics and topics and all that, but I got to
my
get out
bad.
here. You got to No, man, it's all good. So, anyways, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will check you
Yes,
all tomorrow. Oh, and
appreciate
make
the
sure you
love,
all
y'all.
rally the valley tonight.